Hello, Patriots, praying citizens, and truth seekers. Today is Sunday, September 11th, 2022, and I'm Lori Colley, getting right to the point. Well, I hope you will forgive me for borrowing this picture of President Trump, but I thought it was appropriate because this is goodbye. It's hard for me to even record this because I don't want to do it, but I've been praying and fasting, listening to God, and I think that it's time for me to go because the season is up. I've been struggling for some time with my Praying Citizen newsletter, which has become my videos that I drop on Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and Brighteon. And perhaps you're struggling right now. Maybe you struggle with reading the newsletter. Maybe you struggle with watching videos anymore because, I think we're just all sick of it. The daily onslaught of lies and propaganda tends to overpower our sense of peace and zap our strength. At least I've found that it's doing that with me, and my stomach is even turning with the idea of listening to yet another video. In times past, God always provided me with direction and the understanding that my writing and my videos had purpose. My husband is Bob. We've been married for 35 years next month, and we began this journey in 2015. I felt compelled to do it, and he agreed to be my editor. I just wanted a way to equip believing Christians with knowledge and understanding so that they would know how to vote, especially in the 2016 presidential election. I had friends at church that would say, oh, I don't vote because politics, it's too confusing and I don't know what to think, and it would make me angry. So I put my anger into something productive, and I felt God blessed it because he dropped the name Praying Citizen on me like it just was there. And so I began to write. I started with 16 people on my newsletter, and now I have 4,200. It's a small community, but I believe we've been powerful because we haven't stopped praying. So as Bob and I talked about this, we look back and we feel that our assignment was accomplished and even more. I started out in 2015, just with a very basic newsletter. I was campaigning for Donald Trump in 2016. My husband and I even got the assignment from the Trump team because our daughter worked in the Atlanta office. They had very few election offices, but they felt like Georgia was a purple state, and the Trump team felt like they needed to put an office together in Atlanta. And my daughter was kind of the office manager. She had recently graduated from college. She was full of energy, got very little sleep for those 2 or 3 months that she worked there. And then as a gift, when Trump was elected, she was allowed to work for the administration, and I was always very proud of the job that she did. And I felt like she represented all of us in DC as a decent, God-fearing, praying person working for the Trump administration. And it was difficult. Let's think back on how hard it was, because every day the propaganda would just smack us in the face of how much the media hated Trump. Now, there was a while there in the beginning when, Paul Ryan kind of pretended like he could work with Trump, and the Republicans had both houses of Congress and the White House, and still it was like walking through mud. But we made it. We made it through the Trump presidency, even though, in my opinion, the very devils of hell strived to destroy his conservative agenda. Oh, and I never finished my story. So the election day in 2016, I don't even remember who it was, somebody called us and said, hey, would you go to these polling places, and just ask the poll workers how many people voted? So we did, and they asked us to do it like 3 or 4 times during the day. We were living in a little town in Georgia, and they sent us all over the countryside. So after the first go-round, we decided we can hardly do this because it would take a couple of hours to drive to the different polls and talk to the workers and ask them how many people. But what was cool is we made friends with the poll workers. And they actually, it was kind of cool. They were in these little bitty, very poverty-stricken, tiny towns in Georgia, in mid-central Georgia. But their eyes lit up when we would show up and ask, we're just very polite, could you please tell us how many people voted? I'm getting choked up because it was like the process was working. The whole election process was working. And these ladies, it was usually women that were running things, they would, because they weren't working or whatever, they had the time to devote, and senior citizens, and they were excited about participating because we weren't partisan. We were just asking how many people voted. And so we would call our numbers in. And I don't think I'm giving away any big secrets here, but, we just reported on that. And then we made friends with these ladies and got phone numbers so then in the afternoon and the evening we didn't have to go drive to every single polling place. We just called them on the phone and they would tell us, happily, excitedly tell us. It was like they were waiting for us to call. That was 2016, and that was, to me, that was amazing. I feel like I was part of the grand, beautiful picture of what our country is supposed to be. All right, Lori, pull yourself together. All right, so that was 2016. And I thought it was going to get good, but it just got harder and harder and harder. But think of it, guys. We made it. We made it. And now we have 3 pro-life Supreme Court justices. If Donald Trump had done nothing else, he did that. And God used him so that Roe v. Wade could be overturned. And that is something for which we can all be thankful. And I just hope I hope that we have shown our appreciation to him and he could feel our love and our gratitude. But here we are. It's September 11th, 2022. Okay, I am not a prophet. Some of you got mad at me when I did a video on exposing a particular person I thought was well-meaning but a false prophet. Because some of you said, Lori, stick to what you know. Well, guess what, guys? I don't know nothing. I know nothing. Things are so crazy. I don't know anything. I have some people writing me and telling me, the plan, it's still in effect and Trump is still president. And well, if so, okay, I need to go back to kindergarten because I don't know anything, all right? And some of you believe that, and hallelujah, I hope you're right. I really do. But I have to go with what I have in my understanding after prayer and fasting, and I've done a lot of it. I've done a lot of prayer and fasting, not just for this newsletter, not just for the country, but for personal things that are going on with people in my life. So I'm not a prophet, but I look around and I see the spirit of lawlessness everywhere. Why? Because society has lost the ability or the will to claim that there's any truth whatsoever. It's just your truth or my truth or his truth or her truth or, and then add all the different pronouns in there. That person's truth. And then we have something that I call the offended class. They have that spirit of offense that's always looking to be offended and hurt and bitter and angry. And so instead of telling them to shape up, we're coddling them. They're not being asked to take responsibility for their actions. And so criminality is rampant. And the people that are supposed to enforce the laws have decided that they have a different definition than the rest of us do, or our society has for as long as we've all been alive or, throughout the ages. So I want to know, how long are we going to survive with the laws? I think it's such as this one, I think it's called the Safety Act in Illinois, where violent criminals who commit second-degree murder and kidnapping are not going to be put in jail any longer. I think I read something like it takes 48 hours for them to be fitted with an ankle monitor, and in the meantime they're allowed to just do whatever they want to do, commit more crimes, whatever. It's just like the people that are nabbed at the border and they're criminals and they're just allowed to just float right through the border, come in. I know some of them get caught and sent back, but they show up again. So how do we survive that? How do we survive with open borders and masses of deadly drugs flooding in? Who will be here, guys, to give birth to successive generations when states like California pay for surgeries and travel expenses for moms wishing to kill their babies? Who will make up for the sterilization of transgender teenagers when 10% of a generation can't bear children? Or maybe it's going to even be worse. Right now they say 10% of this, these kids, these preteens and teenagers are confused about who they are as a created being. Who's going to make up for that? Are we going to depend on these people coming across the border to populate our nation? Again, I'm not a prophet, and this is just some of the stuff that's out there. What about, what happens from people who obeyed the state and got their dose? What happens to them? Or their 3 doses, or 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever? Granted, a lot of elderly will not make it, but what about the young people that don't make it? And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom here, guys. But I think we've got our attention on the wrong thing sometimes. At least I do. And that's what God has told me. Again, I'm not a prophet, but I recognize that the time for waking up has ended. We've discovered what there is to discover. It's all wickedness. That's one thing I will be very grateful for, the number 17. I can't even say the letter in case. I'm probably going to put this on YouTube. And then if they take my channel away, oh well, I'm done anyway. But we did learn about a lot through that, whether it was a government psyop, whether it was CIA, whatever it was. If it's the truth, whatever. We learned a lot, didn't we? And it's all wicked, it's all evil, it's all terrible. There are days when you think, well, I just wish I didn't know, but then that doesn't work either. So I want to say this, okay, there are tiny pockets of revival, genuine Christian revival, Jesus Christ revival in corners of our nation and places around the world. But for the most part, what I see is the veil over people's eyes remaining. Because why? They refuse to see. They're like their demonic idols. They have eyes and ears and hands and feet, but they can't hear, they can't see, they can't touch, they can't feel, they can't smell or taste or move. Scripture tells us that the people that follow these idols become what they serve. There's a deaf and dumb that comes over them. They're not able to function like God created them to function. And they will stay that way unless God intervenes. And so, of course, for our family members, we are all praying, and our friends, that they will wake up. But for some, there's no hope. All right, I take that back. As long as they're breathing, there's hope. But I just see this thing happening. So it doesn't mean I'm giving up. Of course, I'm going to vote. Of course, I'm going to talk to whomever I can talk to. I'm going to do what I can do. But again, as a result of prayer and fasting, I believe God is calling me, Lori Colley, and my husband Bob to something new. So I won't be doing the newsletter anymore, and I won't be putting videos out there. Unless I do have a little channel that has no subscribers, and I'm going to begin teaching a Bible study to some people in my local area, and I may do practice runs and put them on that channel. So I won't say I'm not doing it. But I'm not going to be doing things the way I have. And I'm waiting to see what God's going to do in the future. So on behalf of my husband and myself, I hope that our newsletter has been worthy of your time and your attention. And I thank you for joining us to pray. Because think of it, only God knows how bad things would have gotten if we hadn't prayed. And if we hadn't repented, I mean, I know many of us are out there looking at our lives, repenting for our stuff, turning from our wicked ways and the dead works that do nobody any good, and turning to God. And I thank Him for all of you who have been out there, who've sent your kind words, who have responded with support, sometimes financial gifts. Thank you very much. I appreciate you so much. We must never, ever, ever give up, never stop praying, never stop standing for the Lord, but always listen, because He knows things that you don't know. He knows things that I don't know. And all of our collective knowledge of every person throughout every generation doesn't even approach the foolishness of God. Thank Him for that. So finally, I just, besides thank you, besides I love your heart, I love your support, I thank you so much. I pray for you. I pray that God will lead you in the way you should go. So let me leave you with this from Paul in 2 Corinthians 13:11. Finally, brethren, farewell. Be perfect, be of good comfort, be of one mind. Live in peace, and the God of love and peace shall be with you. Much love from Bob and me. Goodbye.